We continue our study of Talmud, and we're learning how the Gemara says that somebody who has fun at a wedding, and celebrates and brings gladness to the groom, it's considered an incredible mitzvah, such that the person is considered. We said in the previous passage, we said that it's considered as though the person was present at the giving of the Torah. They received the spiritual value of the 5 voices that were revealed at the giving of the Torah. That's what we said so far. And we discussed how that on one level, the celebration of a wedding is meaningful because it's meaningful in the sense that it isn't just it's where our human life meets our meaning, and where we demonstrate that we're organizing our human life around our meaning in a way that's transcendent and eternal and connected with our history, with the purpose of Jewish people, which goes back to the beginning of time, and the marriage is something that demonstrates that it continues in an eternal way. So that's very special, and it connects thematically to the idea of the Torah, which is the symbol of that same idea, in which a concept becomes a way of life for a nation. And then we also talked about the idea of the 5 voices, in which that concept becoming a way of life is step by step, deeper and deeper, more and more filling our identity such that we become totally filled, pervaded. Is that a word? Pervaded with the spirit of the Torah. So the idea. So in a way, it's the reward of the Torah. The marriage, celebrating with a groom, bringing joy, being part of the supportive cast that brings joy to this groom, is what allows us to merit the fullness of Torah. Because this represents Torah coming to life in the fullest sense. It is Torah made practice. When a Jewish couple gets married in the sight of God, dedicating their life to build a Jewish home, which is really the only purpose of a marriage, because for romance alone one doesn't need to get married. So that's what we said so far. The Talmud now goes one step further and says, Rabbi Avahuam Omer ki ilu hikriv todah. Enjoying a wedding and bringing joy to the groom is as though one has brought a thanksgiving offering in the temple. Shenemar meviim todah beis Hashem. What's the connection between the thanksgiving offering? So the rabbis say, and again this connects also to the 5 voices, the 5 sounds that are celebrated, that are mentioned in the 7th blessing. What are the 5? It says, when are the 5 voices going to be heard? When the Mashiach comes. When the world is finally reaches its full maturity, when it finally develops to its full potential with the coming of Mashiach. So that's what's being mentioned, what's being spoken of in the 7th blessing when we refer to the 5 voices. Now the rabbis say that all the offerings, all the sacrifices in the time to come are going to become redundant. They're no longer going to be practiced. The only offering that's still going to be practiced is the thanksgiving offering. Now, what is the thanksgiving offering? What does it mean to be grateful for something? So there's something unique about being grateful. We are not grateful under normal people are not grateful for breathing. We might say that we're grateful for breathing, but we don't actually feel grateful for. You know who really feels grateful for breathing? Somebody who once couldn't breathe. So somebody really only a person who experienced not being able to breathe is going to be instinctively, naturally grateful for being able to breathe. So it comes out, what is thanksgiving? Thanksgiving is something which is the gift of pain, the gift of not having, the gift of failure. All of those negative circumstances create the context in which we are grateful for when we have it. And if you look at the specific circumstances in which the thanksgiving offering is brought, it is for a person who was in prison, for a person who was in a dangerous situation, for a person who was ill and was healed, for a person who passed through a desert or who traveled through the sea, right? These are circumstances in which a person is grateful after having been in trauma. So, but what's so powerful about the thanksgiving offering is that it transforms the pain, the trauma, and the loss into joy. And that represents God's message, the one that was originally given at the time of the giving of the Torah, that voice reaching to the furthest and darkest corners of the world. So that even in even that traumatic corner, even in that painful corner, in retrospect, we now see that has now become the springboard for our gratitude and for our joy. And so that represents perhaps the best example of the Chamisha Kolos, of the five voices, God's voice permeating all of existence, not only the happy parts, but also the scary parts. And by the way, again, that in this case, in the previous case, we referred only to the chassan, to bringing joy to the chassan, because we're referring to kind of the chassan is the one in the dynamic relationship of Hashem and the Jewish people, in which God is considered the masculine counterpart and the Jewish people are considered the feminine counterpart. God is the groom and we are the bride. The giving of the Torah is brought about by the chassan, right? And so when we come to the wedding, we are in a way, this is part of the magic of celebrating at a wedding, because really you don't know at the wedding. And so celebrating with the groom, meaning you don't know what their life is going to be like. At that point, all you have is the groom. You have someone who has something to give. You have the giver of the Torah, but you don't know if the people are going to accept the Torah. The people, and this doesn't necessarily meaning even in the relationship, the bride also hopes to be able to have a good relationship, but she doesn't know if her love is going to be received, just like he doesn't know, right? It doesn't matter, the bride and the groom, it's a person doesn't know if their hopes are going to be realized in the other. And so bringing joy to the chassan means having confidence that this message is going to be heard, that this joy is going, that this relationship is going to work out. In the spiritual sense, it means that we believe that the Torah can fill the universe, and the way in which we the way in which we demonstrate that is by rejoicing with Hashem, by walking through every day with joy and with a sense of confidence and hope, and the experience of feeling that I am being misameach the chassan, that I am joyful with Hashem in every step, and that I feel that I'm participating in this beautiful thing called Hashem being in the world and giving us the Torah. It's as though I'm already at the state of thanksgiving. It's as though I already have accomplished the goal. And the last one is the highest of all. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak amar ki ilu bana achas mechorvos Yerushalayim. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says it's as though one has built one of the ruins, one has restored one of the ruins of Jerusalem, which again brings to this it fits exactly into the same theme. Finding God in the dark places before you've even found it there. Being at the wedding and celebrating before the relationship has worked out. Because of course dating means nothing, right? Just because they like each other before the wedding doesn't mean they're going to get married. Ma'asim b'chol yom, it happens every day. People think that they met the perfect Mr. or Mrs. Right, and then they're married for one day and they realize it wasn't it, right? Or a few years of marriage, right? So celebrating with the groom before the relationship worked out, having that sense of spiritual confidence, joy with Hashem, in this sense, it's as though one is already in the moment of Mashiach. It's as though one is already saying thank you for the goodness. It's as though one has already rebuilt the ruins of Jerusalem. Because by being joyful with the giving of the Torah, you are already experiencing that which is promised to occur when Mashiach comes.